Every morning in the UK, millions of journeys look exactly like this. According to the Department for Transport, over a third of primary-aged kids are driven to the school gates. Behind a huge chunk of those trips is a quiet agreement that was never properly written down. One parent covers the morning, an ex-partner covers the afternoon, or maybe a neighbour takes both kids on Fridays in exchange for what we usually call a bit of petrol money. That sounds perfectly reasonable until you look at the math. When you watch the pump dial spin, you see a concrete number, making fuel feel like the entire cost of the journey. In reality, the fuel in your tank accounts for roughly 1/3 of what running a car actually costs you. If you have only ever agreed to share the price of petrol, one of you is shouldering a deficit that grows with every mile. By focusing only on the tank, you're leaving the car owner to pay for the other party's share of the vehicle's long-term wear and tear. Because the daily trips feel so short, the true cost remains hidden. This invisible financial bleed is a recurring source of friction in co-parenting and carpooling arrangements, where one person feels the weight of the expenses while the other believes they are contributing fairly. To see how that imbalance happens, you have to break down what a vehicle actually costs to operate. We tend to focus on visible costs, the expenses that hit our bank accounts in obvious lumps, like the fuel itself or the annual vehicle excise duty. But a short, repetitive urban trip is exceptionally hard on physical components. A set of 4 mid-range tires rarely costs under 400 pounds, and replacing brake pads and discs easily runs between 200 and 350 pounds per axle. You are actively wearing these parts down at every single speed bump and zebra crossing. Then there are the administrative penalties. When one parent takes on the daily school run, they often become the named main driver. That shift in usage can creep annual insurance premiums upward. Looming above all of this is vehicle depreciation. A car loses value simply by existing, but that loss accelerates directly with every additional mile you put on the odometer. This breakdown shows the reality of car ownership. The fuel segment is a fraction of the total, completely outweighed by the combined costs of keeping the car on the road and its declining resale value. These costs are microscopic on a per-journey basis, but they compound into hundreds of pounds annually. This is why any agreement based solely on splitting fuel ends up being a subsidy for the person who doesn't own the car. To fix the imbalance, you need a verifiable benchmark. The UK government provides this with the HMRC-approved mileage allowance payment rate. For the first 10,000 business miles in a tax year, it sits at 45 pence per mile. We can apply this rate to a common scenario. Sarah does the morning run, a 6-mile round trip, 5 days a week. Her ex-husband, Mark, transfers 25 pounds a month for fuel. Over the school year, Sarah drives 1,140 miles. Multiplied by the 45 pence HMRC rate, the true cost is £513. Mark's £150 yearly contribution left Sarah covering the remaining £363. The framework highlights this massive deficit. The 45 pence figure represents a reimbursement for the car's entire life cycle. It covers the maintenance and depreciation Sarah was previously paying for by herself, removing the guesswork from the negotiation. Once you have the data, you can adapt the framework to your situation. For separated co-parents, you can calculate the annual total and split it proportionally based on your custody arrangement or respective incomes, keeping the agreement in writing. If grandparents are helping with the school run, you might lower the rate to 20 or 25 pence per mile. This covers direct out-of-pocket costs like fuel and basic wear, without making the family help feel like a commercial transaction. For neighborhood carpools, track the miles driven by each family over the term. At the end of the quarter, multiply the difference by the HMRC rate to settle the balance. This prevents the slow buildup of resentment that often ends carpool arrangements. Set the framework once and commit to reviewing it annually. As fuel prices move, schools change, or mileage fluctuates, the system remains transparent. Standardizing travel costs through a verifiable benchmark and the cost saver tool solves a recurring problem. It replaces an emotional negotiation with a straightforward administrative task.